Hey Internet, it's Paisley Computer, and we're going to talk about one of my favorite computers, the original Nintendo, specifically how to do some pretty easy controller mods. Here you can see the original controller. A and B buttons are concave, and the D-pad has arrows printed on it. This is my Game Boy modded controller, where I've actually taken the buttons and D-pad from an original DMG Game Boy. These OEM parts are interchangeable. I find the D-pad from the Game Boy and convex buttons are just a little bit more comfortable. Adds just a bit more grip to the controller. Side by side, you can see the differences here. The newest controller to join my collection is the NES Max controller, which we can see here. This is also known as the Dog Bone controller. Because of the annoying slidey disc D-pad, this controller gets a pretty bad rap. However, it has turbo A and B built right into it. Comparing the NES Max controller to the original, the A and B buttons are more concave on the Max. Since they look to be about the same size, hopefully we'll be able to put the Game Boy DMG buttons inside the Max. The most exciting change we're going to make to the NES Max is getting rid of that annoying slidey D-pad thing. We're going to replace that with an Xbox thumbstick. Using the included Thomson tool set that came with the kit, we're going to go ahead and open up our controller and just assess what's inside. We're going to turn it over, push the buttons, and push the controller guts out. Gently remove the membranes, and now we have our fully disassembled controller. Quick look at the annoying puck thing we're going to get rid of. Inspect those controller membranes, make sure there's no tears, and then give a good look at the PCB. We're going to give this a little bit of a cleaning as well. Check those solder points on the wire terminals. Make sure everything looks nice and solid and doesn't need to be replaced. Now we're not quite done with the disassembly. We still need to tear apart that annoying puck. So we're going to go ahead and take a closer look at this. And as you can see, it's basically the slider is encased in this little black circle plastic encasement. And along the edge, there are tiny little clasps that you can just add a little bit of pressure and pull it down. And if you do it enough times, eventually the two pieces will open up and you can take that little puck out. So now that everything is open and on the table, it is time to begin the cleaning. Using just a mild detergent and some Q-tips, I'm just cleaning all the grease and schmutz off the controller body and the buttons. The housing of the controller I will actually just wash like a dish, but for all these tiny parts I prefer to just do it with a Q-tip so that way I don't lose them in the drain. With the red puck gone, we just go ahead and slide the red thumbstick in the same place, and the disc just so happens to fit exactly perfectly around the thumbstick, and it holds it very rock solidly. So the entire encasement and thumbstick is basically one piece now. With our thumbstick finished, we can go ahead and move on to getting those DMG Game Boy buttons installed. So I got to get them out of the other modded controller, so I just take those apart. But we ran into a little bit of an issue. It turns out the A and B buttons for the Dog Bone controller are of different heights. This is to account for a slight curve of the top controller. You can see here that the buttons are just too short and they're a little bit bigger around, so they wouldn't have fit anyway. Womp womp, sometimes you just gotta try, but we still got the joystick ready. So we're just gonna clean the rest of the guts of the controller and get everything reassembled. Now that the controller is done, it is time to put it to the test. So first off, we're going to fire up one of my all-time favorite NES games. That's right, Double Dragon 2: The Revenge. You can't find a more classic beat-em-up than Double Dragon. With the joystick on the NES Max, I feel like I am way more agile and nimble. It feels great. I can move in any direction. As you can see here, I can kind of do some quick spins. I'm just kind of testing things, doing 360s and moving around while I'm boxing this boss here. The stick actually feels pretty sensitive. Surprising that it's just sitting on top of 4 membranes. One game in, and this joystick already feels great. Up next is one of my favorite shooters, it's Captain Skyhawk. This is a pretty fast-moving isometric shooter, and with the built-in Turbo A, this game is awesome. The joystick feels really, really good going back and forth and changing my altitude, especially during these kind of first-person sections here. The joystick really helps in getting those diagonals. It just feels much, much more accurate over the D-pad or even the disc. Even these little bonus satellite rounds are quite easy to keep the plane nice and steady now that I have a joystick. Dungeons and Doom Nights is a Zelda-like dungeon crawler, so that means the character position for your attack is very important, and that is where the NES controller with the thumbstick shines. It is very nice to have that little more modern feel, but still have very accurate inputs for the character. I feel that everything that I put into the thumbstick is translated as it would be as if it were a D-pad. Though quite stiff, we need to test its precision, and the best way to do that is to play the most precise game in the world, Tetris. Though I am not the world's greatest Tetris player, I had a blast using the thumbstick on the NES Max controller. I was able to get all the pieces in right where I needed them. I had absolutely no complaints in my ability to swap pieces at the last minute. I'm not a real Tetris head because I'm not doing that finger rolling technique you see the pros doing, but the stick feels good anyway. Now we need to test the biggest franchise that came out on the Nintendo that starts with M, and if you guessed Richard Branson presents in collaboration with McDonald's, MC Kids, you are correct. And it is pronounced MC Kids. Check the copyright displayed right here on the title screen. This is a side-scrolling adventure game that has absolutely nothing to do with the McDonald's universe. The only thing it has to do with McDonald's are a few cutscenes and these little M's, the golden arches that you collect as you're going through the level. Actually, this game's really fun for just being like a little adventure side-scrolling game. It's pretty good. The mechanics and character movements are great. Animations are really fun. And when you beat a level, you get to high five with your best friend, which is really, really cool. So go to your local game shop and check for the NES Dog Bone controller. They're usually pretty cheap. Nobody wants them because of that slidey disc thing. And then get on Amazon or eBay and find yourself an Xbox thumbstick and make yourself an awesome NES controller. I highly recommend it. It's a little bit stiff, but otherwise it feels pretty good. This is a very easy, low-cost, no-solder mod that you can do that will increase the usability of an actual Nintendo product. So I highly recommend it. So if you like entertainment technology, new or retro, like and subscribe for more content. And thanks for watching.